Natural selection itself cannot preserve a population.
Hey Matt, here to say something dumb and then pat yourself on the back for defeating science again, I see. And, what the hell does that even mean? Natural selection is simply a force that guides evolution in a certain context. It has nothing to do with preserving a population. In fact, natural selection very much will destroy populations if they aren't fit for their environment. What are we, 7 words in? And already wildly off base for anything even approaching an understanding of science. What a shock that it's coming from the mouth of Matt, I don't know fricking anything about anything, Powell.
Natural selection is something that is required in order to drive evolution.
Oh my god, stop saying wrong things in such rapid succession at the very start of the video. I need time for my brain to get used to being even dumber than normal. Christ. No, Matt. Evolution does not require natural selection. What are you talking about? Natural selection is one of the forces that can guide evolution. But it's not the only one. I mean, artificial selection has been happening via the hand of the humans for basically every plant or animal used in food production ever, and other things to boot. For longer than it takes me to get off my arse to answer the door unless it's food or booze deliveries. And that is a long time.
Natural selection is something that is required according to an evolutionist.
Which evolutionist? Not any that I know, at least that who, understand what evolution is and what it actually requires. Is that the kind of person you've been talking to and why you have no idea how any of this shit works? 'Cause no, they're wrong and you need to talk to a different person. Preferably someone who has more understanding of it than you do. I'd say start with a bag of vomit and move up from there.
To keep us alive, as a population.
Oh, to keep you alive. No, that's not true at all. In fact, humans haven't really been subject to natural selection for f***ing ages. There are selection forces at play, but they're more like sexual selection and the like, combined with the humans' regular attempt to keep as many of them alive as possible via medicine and the like. Ugh. So no, your mate is still wrong, unless he lives in the woods, surviving off of nuts and berries and fighting f***ing bears.
But the problem is that natural selection itself cannot stop mutations from getting added to populations over generations.
What has that got to do with anything, Matt? I'm assuming you are talking broad strokes with mutations, and mutations are a thing that happens in humans all the time. It's normal. I don't think you know what mutations are. A mutation is something that changes from one thing to another. I mean, a mutation isn't an additional thing, necessarily. Theoretically, you could have the same mutation going on and off through successive generations. Just look at those conditions that skip generations, for instance. Are they adding something when they don't happen? I don't think so.
What this means is that each generation we actually have 100 to 200 more mutations than our parents had.
Right, again, those aren't necessarily going to be additional things. It can be the same thing changing. Sometimes they stack into something more interesting, but most of the time they don't do f*** all. But that's all irrelevant, really, because change happens, and that change effectively causes evolution. These are things that happen. What is your point, Matt?
Now, these mutations are defined as neutral. However, it still is an alteration of existing information that is functional information.
How do you know? What is your qualification in the field of genetics that allows you to say that apparently all mutations to genetic code is functional? I'm guessing it's f***ing nothing, and you have no idea what you're talking about. Massive swathes of genetic code are basically useless, although it gets a bit more complicated than that. But really, what's the point of going into it with Big Matt when he doesn't even know what natural selection is for? But honestly, it's a bit weird. In a world where a perfect God made perfect things perfectly the way that he wanted them to be, you would think that any alterations would not only not happen, but be impossible because of what elite hacksaw Mr. G-Man is. I'm starting to think that he didn't create shit.
And you have to ask the question, what will happen?
If we let you keep talking, I don't know, a bit of laughter from the hilarity, a large amount of frustration at the sheer overconfidence combined with utter wrongitude, perhaps some falling down from the sheer catastrophic destruction of all the brain cells within a 50-mile radius of hearing you speak. I guess that's why they keep putting you in the forest now. Someone out there has to protect everyone else from you.
If we continue having mutations that mix up and scramble information over these generations.
You use those words as if they mean anything, but a mutation changing things isn't mixing it up or scrambling it, it's changing it. That's it. Things change. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse, but in general, very little changes, and sometimes I'm sure it changes back even. Because this piles of additional crap isn't really how it works. Large changes take a really goddamn long time too. And if in between something was selecting for the beneficial changes, I have a funny feeling that the whatever that came out the other end would probably be better, at least in terms of its ability to survive, not worse. I wonder if there's some things that do that.
All mutations must have some effect, even if that effect is vanishingly small.
You literally just said that they don't, so by vanishingly small do you mean no effect? And that's the thing about spaghetti code. You can change tons and tons of it to little or in fact no effect, even though you are technically making some big changes. And boy howdy is there some spaghetti going on in the humans. These bad boys just take so much. Slaps roof. Humans have roofs, right?
If you start randomly changing DNA sequences and randomly changing functional information, it is going to, by definition, cause it to be dysfunctional.
No? What if, and get this right, instead of its function being destroyed, it's instead changed? Perhaps even changed to a more useful function, and the old one was actually not something needed anymore. Mind blown, right? You do that enough time and the whole organism might not be the same thing anymore. Now that would be trippy, right?
This is why evolution is false, and this is why creation science is true.
That's a bit of a leap, like across 80 football fields, each filled with sharks, lions and some very aggressive pensioners kind of leap. The fact that mutations happen, mutations that lead to change in organisms that is required for evolution to function, somehow, magically, makes the complete opposite of that true. That's not how that works, Matt. That's not how f***ing anything works. God damn.
Because of the fundamental of science, because of the fundamental of what a mutation even is.
That thing that you almost certainly have absolutely zero understanding of. I mean, that's how you can even remotely think that science supports creationism. You have to have no clue what the hell science says about anything. And then make up a bunch of shit, and then ta-da, creationism am supported by science. Science! It's a bit like science, only shit.
Mutations, building up in populations over generations, will cause the extinction of all populations over time.
So, if you want to get to the nitty-gritty of it, yeah, kinda, that's how evolution works. Things are no longer the thing they were. Species speciate until they are a different thing, and the old thing is, extinct. Look at you, accidentally a science. I mean, I know that's not what you thought you meant, but thinking, well, it's not exactly your forte now, is it, mate?
That accrue those mutations. This is why creation is true. It shows us...
Oh, here we go. This ought to be good. What does it show us, Matt? What exactly does evolution functioning the way we expect it to, aside from the bits where you lie/don't understand it? What does it show us about creationism? Aside from the fact that creationism is, of course, complete bollocks.
That if we go back far enough in time, you would trace back to a single couple with the least amount of mutations.
Oh, f*** me. No. No, we wouldn't, Matt. That's f***ing idiotic. Because that's not how it works. A, there's no such thing as this mutation-free couple. That's something you made up. And B, even if there was, it would take way longer than the 6,000 years you think the world is as old as to get to that clean slate. Since humans will have definitely had mutations hundreds of thousands of years ago to boot, which is a little bit longer than 6.
Maybe even a perfect genetic code.
Citation needed? Oh, that's right, you don't have one, because that comes from directly betwixt your arse cheeks, because that idea is a load of old creationist shit, which is worse than normal shit, because when you consume nothing but bullshit, well, it's not going to come out less shitty now, is it?
And that it became imperfect when sin entered in, and mutations have accrued since.
Oh, of course, sin! That thing that God is completely powerless to combat because, as we all know, God is a worthless God with no value whatsoever that can only achieve things when the humans do it for him. Although then again, try figuring out what he actually wants because he sure as shit ain't telling anyone. That would be too useful. And again, he ain't about being an effective deity. He's more of an appearing to be completely fictional type of guy. It's his jam.
Remember, we die from mutations.
No, we don't. You just said that we don't, you colossal toothpaste sandwich. Mutations happen in all of us. Every single person has shit tons of them. And most of them barely do anything. Some of them make us better at Pong, and others can cause some shit we don't like, but mutations kill us is simply asinine. Although I do like that as a pitch for the next NRA meeting. Guns don't kill people. Countless generations of slight variations in the genome kill people. It's real catchy, I think.
Yet mutations are supposedly the thing that drives a fish to a fisherman over millions of years, or even a frog to a prince.
Drives a fish to a fisherman? What, like in a car? Or do you mean that the changes can stack up until one thing is very different to the other? Well, yeah, that's how it works. That's what we keep saying and what you keep refusing to understand. I mean, your specific example is probably completely wrong, but it's obvious that you don't want to be correct. You want to be correct, in quotes, which is eerily similar to being completely wrong.
This is all nothing but fairy stories and fairy tales.
What, like everything that you believe? Yeah, I mean pretty much literally. The whole everyone coming from two people is the most ludicrous fairy tale of them all. Because your whole, well, they were genetically perfect, whatever the that's supposed to mean thing, doesn't make any sense. Because a big part of the way populations survive is via genetic diversity. Two people with seemingly identical genetics are going to make some very broken offspring, right sharpish if you ask me. But that does sound exactly like the kind of stupid mistake your God would make. I swear, I didn't even vote for him.
But yet people will choose to believe it over thus saith the Lord.
People will choose to believe the factual, backed-up, scientifically accurate, data-driven ideas that work and function and create things that we can use to make the world a better place over, me am correct because book! Really? You don't f***ing say, Matt! Damn it. People going around believing things that have bases in reality. That's just f***ing stupid.
These are interesting facts that I think we always need to remember.
1. Matt Powell is the world's smartest creationist. I mean, he's also the least smart creationist because they all share the same brain cell. 2. Creationism is to science as cow pies are to bakery, except cow pies smell better than creationism. And finally, number 3, haha, Bible go brr, is not actually an adequate answer to anything ever.
And they are basic truths of science. Mutations actually cause information to get worse. It is defined, a mutation itself is defined as an error.
I'm sure there are some definitions that call it an error, but fun fact, there's actually a definition that is to do with genetics, and it goes thusly. The changing of the structure of a gene resulting in a variant form that may be transmitted to subsequent generations caused by the alteration of a single base units in DNA, or the deletion, insertion, or rearrangement of larger sections of genes or chromosomes. Mutation is ultimately the only way in which new variations enters the species. Oh man, it's almost as if your definitions of things aren't the only way science is done. Damn science, ignoring Matt Powell's important and only definitions like that. The bastards. I also enjoy the part that talked about the deletions of genes etc. When your whole shtick is about some sort of mass accumulation of mutations until, I suppose, they come out of your eyes or something. It's almost like he's never actually read a single word about how science do the things. I am surprised.
So according to evolution, by all these errors and all these mistakes, somehow we've become human. Somehow we have become better able to survive.
Isn't it weird that they don't use the term mistakes? It's almost like you use the words they don't use in order to try and trick people into thinking that somehow science doesn't know what it's talking about. That all the scientists have just been spinning their wheels while you, Matt, the forest dweller Powell, have got it all figured out. Is it worth it, Matt? Do the lies and the misrepresentation, do they make you happy? I f***ing hope so, because they sure as shit don't make you right.
In this new environment, millions of years after the origin of life.
New environment? What new environment? You can't just put that in quotes and not qualify that, Matt. Seriously, what new environment? I mean, there are a few I can think of, but without any context, what the hell am I even supposed to f***ing argue against? Christ, that's annoying.
One of the most important things to note is that natural selection may act upon a beneficial mutation.
So just after you rattle on and on about them always being bad, I'm just going to slip in, oh, by the way, they can be good, so that we can't say that he didn't bring it up or something. But I'm sure he's going to rug sweep that as not important immediately, as the incredible, honest, not full of shit, smart person he is.
Something that would help you survive in a different environment. But at no point in history, or in the present, or even in the future, will you see a group of beneficial mutations that will change an organism into a completely different type of organism.
Given enough time, yes, Matt, you absolutely would. And if mankind makes it beyond a few tens of thousands of years, when some organisms are going to, in fact, be very different to how they are now, probably because of humans, the future generations will hopefully have a monument dedicated to just how wrong you are. I'm picturing a great big flaccid cock.
Wait, before you go, I have something super important to tell you. It's life or death. It will change everything forever. Nope, wait, it's gone. Oh well, probably wasn't important. But while I have you, don't forget to comment, subscribe and notify. And if you want more of my smexy voice, check out Mrs. Six's channel Spoonstar Stories, where I narrate and voice all the videos, and she does the work. And if you want to support the channel, check out the merch store for cool t-shirts, or check out Patreon, memberships and PayPal to support directly. Finally, follow me on the medias of social to get completely pointless guff and to keep up on the latest releases. Oh, I just remembered what I was going to tell you. Whatever you do, don't touch the